Coco and I are interested in sharing with you our journey with doing something of our own and how you never stop feeling lost, but the realization I've had through it. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Notes from a Desi Girl. My name is Manasi, or as my art teacher once said, Manasai. Something happened to me before being creative. I was feeling directionless. But when I did start on it, because I thought, hang on, my thoughts are fine, like they're okay, I have some sort of a system. For each episode, I'll record my thoughts loosely around one topic for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll edit things where I meander a lot. That's a system, right? That's fine. I guess I could do this the way I'm just talking to a friend, and you could talk to a friend forever, which means, in theory, I should be able to do this for a long time. So, if I have a direction and I kinda know what to do, why do I still feel lost? For a while there, I thought maybe it's because I tie the output or the result of my creative work to the actual work itself, even though the more you do it, the more detached these two things get. Because the thing is, yeah, okay, these are my thoughts, but I am uploading this on YouTube. If it was just for me, I wouldn't upload it, right? It means that my thoughts and the involvement of the people who think the same way matters to me. But is it that? Maybe not. But is it the fact that creativity comes in bursts and like strikes of lightning, and trying to fit it into a schedule like a 9 to 5 or a 10 to 3 sort of is trying to fit oil and water in a container together? I have this uncle, let's call him Mogambo. Uncle Mogambo is a contrarian. He loves to be the devil's advocate at everything you say, like every single thing you say. So when I was a kid, I was just like messing around and I said out loud that they taught us today that oil and water don't mix. And to play devil's advocate, Uncle Mogambo was like, actually, oil and water can mix. You just need to apply a lot of strength to mixing it. But mixing the way creativity works versus the way 9 to 5 works is a little bit like that. How do you really put two equal and opposite things in the same container and expect them to coexist? Like, what is that about? So, while I didn't schedule creativity itself, I tried to schedule showing up, trusting that maybe I'll just say what comes and that it'll be okay. I still feel lost, even though I kind of know what to do, which means even if you start creative work, the thing that you really wanted, you still feel lost along the way. I thought about it because I want to go to like the root cause. What is the reason of this? And if I know the reason of this, then maybe I can tackle it. So let's reverse engineer this together. Creative work for me, as more and more days pass and like the more and more AI takes, control of every facet of our being, I feel like creative work is even more important. You'd think that AI can take over the creative work of some people, but I realize that AI is generic. The entirety of everything really because of the existence of AI becomes pretty generic. But the more specific you get with your story and experiences, the more you can reach people, the lack, which is the lack of what we have, and that is what creative work is about. Which means creative work is about being honest and telling the truth. Now, that is the one thing people like us, like people who grew up in, households that were quite violent and loud to say the least. I think that's the one thing we are most afraid of. Because you know how they used, like elders used to say, just tell me the truth, nothing will happen to you, you will be rewarded. And then we used to tell the truth, and literally the worst things would happen to us. So I think somewhere along the way, our nervous system, or at least mine, learned that telling the truth equals bad. So now, while my brain still knows that I'm not a kid anymore and that telling the truth about the fact that I did something wrong or that I made a mistake is not going to result in bad things anymore, I have realized that if your brain knows one thing, it takes maybe years for your nervous system and your body to learn the same thing. Like, at least for me, there has been a 3 to 5 or even 10-year lag between what my brain knows versus what my body does with that information or despite it. So now I know that telling the truth is fine, but somewhere it still jabs at me because putting your thoughts out there in a podcast is about telling the truth and being honest about your experiences, whatever they were. Like, it's fine, right? This is who I am, whatever. But my nervous system doesn't know that, and that I think aids to me feeling lost. Secondly, I think the Indian society, the way we are kind of punished for being ourselves, like you are not supposed to be yourself. You are supposed to be tactful and polite and be a shadow or a 2D version of who you really are to keep the peace and to keep the harmony in gatherings. You are never supposed to say no to third or fourth helpings of any. And that part is a little cute, but you're not supposed to be yourself. Though, like, if you are yourself in Indian, so if you're weird, that is social suicide. It is only now changing, but again, just because my brain knows it, my nervous system doesn't. I think these two things compound a lot. So, telling the truth to me is like I'm stepping on ground, but the next step I take, which is the next upload in this case, is like I could step into a swimming pool. In fact, I am most likely going to step into a swimming pool. Like, have has that happened to you? You were just walking and then you just randomly because it hasn't happened to me, but I've seen this happen on TV, and they are so good at making you feel like what the character is going through that I can't. This has not happened to me because I didn't just like randomly have a swimming pool next to me, but I can understand what that's like. And that's what creative work is like. Even if you start doing it, you feel like your next step is uncertain and you feel lost. But the more I think about it, I feel like feeling lost is a more romantic way of saying feeling unsafe. I don't exactly feel safe with every upload because of the way my childhood and Indian society shapes the truth telling for us. So I'm here thinking, what's the point? Should I still keep doing this? Now, in another episode where I was rambling, I sort of arrived at this weird conclusion for myself that not continuing this is a bit more painful and embarrassing than continuing this. So, one feeling is louder than the other, which helps. Because feeling terrible about not saying the things I want to say is should be louder than the lost feeling you get. But what I have realized is back in the day, like 2 years ago, when I started vlogging and I had a very rocky start to this, I was not entirely comfortable just being myself, but slowly I started being myself on camera in just a few months. And I was like, okay, that unsafe feeling was a lot louder back then. But now it's a bit more like data. It never goes away, is what I'm realizing. But it's a bit more like data. You know, when you say one word like a billion times just for the heck of it and it loses all meaning, I think it's a little bit like that. So, the whole, I mean, it comes back to be consistent and put more reps in. But the point here is that it's very easy to say just be consistent despite anything. But what's important for me is to reinforce or acknowledge the fact that you never stop feeling a little lost, even if you're doing the exact thing you feel like you were meant to do. Isn't that crazy? Like, shouldn't all of that lost feeling and fog feeling have cleared by now? It doesn't. Which means the more you do it, it's not that you just magically become consistent. It's more like you can't ignore the whole consistent or keep showing up act without all these other little feelings clouding up who you are, like the feeling of lost or the feeling of being scared or the feeling of what is the point. In my experience, those feelings don't go away, and I can't predict what it will be like 5 years from now, but I suspect they'll never go away. It's just like I've said the word spoon 100 times now, and in 5 years I will have said that word 10,000 times and it will lose all meaning. Okay, hi, I guess let's have tea to that feeling, you know. I don't think you are crazy for feeling lost. That's just the price you pay for creative work. I have not heard a lot of people say this because I feel like feeling lost might signal that you don't know what you're doing, but I think it means you know what you're doing. It's just the byproduct of knowing what you're doing and feeling the bad thing anyway. It's like equal and opposite things. You know, a sine wave is never just the bumps, bumps, bumps. There's always the little crater or the dip as well. If you feel like the rush of creativity or the upper bump, you will feel the lower bump too. Oop, 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 oop. Someone is sliding. So, Coco and I think this is an extremely important piece of information to share with all my fellow creatives. It is okay to feel that way. And in my experience, it just takes that long for the nervous system to catch up to the information that our brain knows. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that feeling lost is a requirement because otherwise, I don't know how to make sense of any of this. If you're out there, if you're creative, you're just starting to be creative, or if you've been in this for like years, band together. It just means that now we are at least aware of the fact that this happens. You can see that my dog is now judging me because he thinks I'm circling ideas and not trusting the audience enough to understand that I said it the first time. I realize because my instinct is to over explain. Why? Because of the way my childhood was, guys. It started at 6. So that is gonna be a topic for another video, I assume. Why, when someone goes silent after a question or after something I've said, my instinct is to keep explaining. But for today, this is where I leave you. Thanks for listening. Bye. Bye, Coco.